Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Enoforum and for this very important events. I know that it's the first time in Spain, but I think it's a very important event here in this city of Zaragoza. I would like to give you some information. So, yeah. I would like to give you some information about the OIVs. As you know, or as you don't know, the OIV is an intergovernmental organization which gathers actually today 46 member states. So our representatives are the representative of the ministry, and mainly for the agriculture ministry, and 46 countries around the 5 continents, and also which represent 45% of the world wine production and 40% of the world wine consumption. In addition to the member states, we have also some observers. And in the map in front of you, you have in pink color China. And China is not a member of the OIV, but two provinces of China are observers at the OIV, and I'm sure that in the future China will become a full member, because China, and we will see that China is becoming a main player in the world wine sector. The objective and the mission of the OIV are mainly the harmonization and adaptation of regulation by its members, and also to facilitate the mutual recognition of, for example, the oenological practices in the world wine sector. So we define, in this framework, we define the product, so we adopt the definition of the vitivinicultural product, and also we define and adopt some oenological practices, method of analysis, and also some rules of labeling. We promote and guide the scientific and technical research in the sector, and we mainly on the emerging topics like climate change, of course, and the environmental issue. We promote also the heritage of wine and the culture of wine in different countries. And also we provide the patronage. That's Enoforum here is a good example. Sorry. In terms of standards of recommendation, the OIV established 4 main standards in the sector. The first one is, and I think that is well known here, the International Code of Oenological Practices. It's a standard which gathers all the oenological practices admitted at the OIV. And also it includes the definition of the different definition of the products. The second standard, it's the International Oenological Codex, and which mentions all the specification, like the limits of some contaminant or microbiology issue on the admitted oenological product. And also, important task is a compendium of the method of analysis. It's the methods which are recognized at the international level and used for example, in the dispute between countries. And we can also add some standard on labeling, because we have also adopted and we update actually the labeling standard for wine. And also we provide some guidelines in viticulture area or in the oenological area. And for example, we have adopted some guidelines on sustainable viticulture and also for the, for example, traceability, or some guidelines for the prevention of some toxin like ochratoxin A, or for the contamination of Brettanomyces, for example, or also the good practice for finding agent with potentially allergenic agent. Oops. It's important to know that the resolution of the OIV are not mandatory. They have to be integrated in the national law. But it's important to know that many OIV standards are included by direct integration in the law. For example, in the Mercosur area, the Mercosur integrates the OIV standard and the OIV resolution. It's the same case for the EU regulation. The EU regulation adopt and integrate the OIV resolution and recommendation when they adopted by the member states. There are also a case for national law. It's a case for China, for example, which this country has, in the past, has changes the definition of wine according to the definition of OIV. And also this resolution of the OIV are used by reference, for example, between the bilateral or multilateral agreement. Yeah. So I would like to show you some example of the new topics in progress at the OIV level. These topics integrate the new oenological practices, for example. We have in progress treatment of must and wine in order to reduce or eliminate the earthy, musty flavor with some bioabsorption copolymer. There is also a works in progress regarding the update of the oenological practice on tannin addition, because at the OIV level, the tannins is used only for clarification. And so we are working on the other technological approach of tannins addition, like color stabilization or something like that. And I would like to mention that this topic is also implemented in the University of Zaragoza here with some experts. So it's an important issue actually. The other issue is new treatment, new anti-foaming agent with the dimethyl polysiloxane, and also the treatment with fumaric acid, which is not allowed, which is allowed in some countries, but not actually at the OIV. And again, there is some works here in Spain, and in particular in the laboratory and the team of Antonio Morata. The other application, other issue is the application of protease in order to remove the ACE-forming protein from must, and so it's a very important task at the OIV at this moment. And some experiments are conducted in different countries, in Australia, for example, or also in Italy or in France. And also we are working and starting a work on the OIV guidelines on minimization of sulfite in wine. We have heard yesterday that the consumer expectation is wanted less sulfite in wine, and so we are working on a guide for minimization and to reduce the use of SO2 in wine. Another specific issue regarding the desalcoholized wine and the specific oenological practices for this product. You know that this product is particular because regarding the low content of alcohol, so we are working to know if there are some specific oenological practices it needs. Also, some view on the acidification limit, and we have a work on the update and review of the limit of OIV, and in particular for the acidification, and also for the use of carboxymethyl cellulose. We have heard some speech yesterday on this topic. So this issue are mainly on the chemical product, but sorry. Yeah. But you know that more and more the wine sector is focusing on the physical treatment, and I remembered that there are different physical treatment already adopted in different regulation. For example, for the desalcoholization of wine, or also the use of membrane techniques for different purposes, for acidification, the gas management, or other purposes. But also we are working actually on the different new techniques for to manage the microbiology issue. It's the case for the high hydrostatic pressure technology on wine to inactivate bacteria and yeast in red and white wine, suggesting that it may be used for wine preservation. These techniques are used in different agriculture area, but is proposed for the wine making. So we are at the OIV, we are at the beginning of the process. So it's maybe in 2 years we can finalize this evaluation. It's the same case for the two other techniques, the high-power ultrasound during the red wine vinification to crush the grapes and to increase the extraction of phenolic compounds, and also the pulse electric fields technology in winery to control the microbial growth in grape wine. And I see that there is a poster outside the room on this topic. And the other contribution is also for the, for example, the method of analysis. As I say, the method OIV adopts some different method of analysis, and we focus mainly today on the method of analysis for the authentication and identification of wine. It's the case for the different techniques and different methods for NMR or protonic NMR, and also for the non-traditional isotope method of analysis. It's important, it's important also to underline that the role of the OIV is more and more important due to the situation of the world wine market. The world wine sector is more and more globalized. You know that more and more countries produce wine. We have some producer and some wine producer in, for example, in East Africa, for example. There is maybe a new country. And also the wine consumption is getting more and more globalized. The old pattern and the pattern of the wine consumption is shift to a modern model with consumption of wine maybe at the end of the week with high quality wine, for example. And consumer and citizen have new expectations and concerns. It's important to know that the consumer are more and more informed, and they have new and other demand regarding the wine sector. And I will focus on some topics later on. And also the trade. The trade is also globalized, and I give you two figures. 10 years ago, 25% of the wine is consumed was imported. Today, 2 bottles on 5 is imported. So I will give you two examples, and the last figure for the OIV statistics is the world wine production in 2017. Actually, the wine production is 250 million hectoliters, and as you can see on the top of the slide, that this production is decreasing comparing to the previous year. But you can see the top 10 of the wine producing countries, with the first Italy, and following by France, Spain, and also it's important to mention the country of China with 10.8 million hectoliters. As I say, that China is becoming a main player in the wine sector. Sorry. It's very sensible. Oh, sorry. And for the consumption, the total consumption is about 243 million hectoliters. This consumption is quite stable comparing to the previous year. And again, I would like to mention that 5 countries represent approximately 50% of the world wine consumption: France, Germany, Italy, US, and China. And to finalize my speech, I would like to focus on the, if I can, yes. Yeah. To focus on the 3 major challenges for the wine sector in the future or today. We have identified 3 main challenges. The economic issue, it's a question of improving the competitiveness of the sector and to support its internationalization. The second issue is a societal issue to meet the consumer expectation in terms of identity of the wine, the quality of the wine, in the diversity of the different wine. And also, and as you well know, the environmental issue by responding to environmental concern in terms of preserving natural resources. In terms of improving the competitiveness of the sector, several actions can be used. For example, of course, seeking for added value and by improving the quality of wine, of course. The quality of wine is increasing for many years in the different countries, but this quality passed by improvement in the vineyard and also for the choice of the certain varieties, and at the level of the seller also with the oenological practices. But the action also is by the multiplication of wine authentication procedure, both at the, for example, PDO level, but also the organic status system or the certification in order to improve the quality and also to give added value to the wine. This improvement of competitiveness is also linked to the marketing of wine, and it's important that for the future, and it's also today, that the diversification of the marketing methods, the e-commerce, and also by internet, and it's important for the actors to better know the market. And also due to the diversification of the distribution. Also, the competitiveness of the sector depends on its ability to limit production cost by technological innovation, and the wine sector is very active in the innovation. And also, finally, the regulatory environment is important for the wine sector. So I would like to, the third, the second is a consumer expectation, and the consumer wants to have a food safety or a wine clear in the food safety area. So, but you know that wine is not are not very big concern in terms of chemical risk or microbiological risk. The only risk is related to the excessive consumption of wine or wine products. Another expectation is the quality of wine for the consumer. It's also linked to the oenological practices and the good viticultural practices. And also the main expectation is the authenticity and the origin of wine, which can be guaranteed by the producer. So we are to link to the method of analysis and also the control of and the traceability of the production. And finally, the third and last issue is the environmental issue concerning the impact of the climate change. Of course, climate change is real, is linked to an increase of frequency and in scale of events. It passes by the cultural practices and also the new or adapted practices in the vineyard and also in the cellar. Protection of our environment by reducing the use of phytosanitary product or the improvement of the use. And also the use of the resistant cultivar conservation. And also the preservation of natural resources, of water resources is very important actually. And in conclusion, I would like to, to inform you that a main issue actually discussing at the OIV is labeling and consumer information, and we are well known that the information on ingredients are a main issue at this moment. So the wine sector is focusing to economical expectation to ensure the fair trade, the environment expectation by providing sustainable production, and the consumer expectation by providing product information and guarantee of the quality and authenticity. So in this area, the OIV provides some idea and technical and scientific reference, because it's, these decisions are based on scientific basis, and also by a multidisciplinary approach, and also by a consensus adoption. Thank you for your attention.